The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
But before we get to the flashing lights and the red carpets of today, we actually need to take you back to a moment where there were no cameras. Just silence.
It's Christmas morning 2001, Los Angeles.
Right, and let's set the scene here, because usually Christmas in LA is, sunny and weirdly warm. But on this specific morning, it is pouring rain.
It's dreary.
Super dreary. And inside this house in the Hollywood Hills, the silence is heavy. There's a man sitting on the couch, totally alone.
No family, no presents being torn open, no celebration.
And this isn't just any guy. This is a face the entire world grew up watching.
He was the kid from Silver Spoons.
The teen idol from the Hogan family, Jason Bateman.
Exactly. But on this specific morning, the phone hasn't rung for a real acting gig in almost a decade. He has been at 32.
And the reason the house is so quiet is the real story here. Just a few hours earlier, his wife stood at the door with her luggage.
She didn't just go for a drive to cool off after an argument.
No, she got on a plane to Mexico without him.
She gave him a binary choice that had a strict time limit. You have 24 hours, you can keep the party going and lose this marriage forever, or you can land the plane right now.
He had 24 hours to change or lose everything.
That lonely man in the rain had to make a choice. And looking back, that wasn't just a bad holiday. That was the pivot point.
That was the moment he had to decide between becoming another tragic Hollywood casualty or becoming the powerhouse director and actor behind Ozark.
Welcome to StarScope Report. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Jamie. We are here to uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Today's deep dive tracks the incredible fall and rise of Jason Bateman.
We're going to break down the wilderness years, that lost decade of addiction that almost erased him from the industry entirely. We'll look at how he built his empire.
And finally, we have to unpack this brand new controversy with Charlie XCX, because it proves that his past is still very much driving his present behavior.
It's a fascinating case study in how we view redemption. And honestly, looking at him now, directing, producing, starring in Black Rabbit, it is hard to believe he was ever that close to the edge.
I mean, we are talking about a guy who had a literal escape plan to vanish from his own life.
Completely. And I think to really understand the Charlie XCX controversy we saw this week, you have to understand the trauma of that Christmas morning.
But to get there, we have to rewind. We have to look at what he calls the wilderness years.
Because before Arrested Development saved him, Bateman was stuck in a very expensive, very dangerous neutral.
It really starts with the psychology of the child star. We see this pattern over and over, but Bateman articulates it better than almost anyone. He'd been working since he was 10. Little House on the Prairie, Silver Spoons.
While most of us were learning long division and playing tag, he was
hitting marks and dealing with union reps.
Right. Which sounds glamorous on the surface, but when you're 10, you don't care about residuals, you care about playing.
And that creates a specific psychological debt. Bateman has spoken about this extensively. He calls it missing out on his wiggles.
His wiggles? That sounds like a children's music group.
It does. But in this context, it's his term for that irresponsible, playful energy you expend as a kid. You run around, you make mistakes, you scrape your knees, you act stupid.
He didn't get to do that. He was a professional.
So when he hit his 20s, he felt entitled to those wiggles. He felt he was owed a childhood.
That's actually a really dangerous mindset when you're technically an adult with adult resources. It's like, I'm going to act like a 6-year-old, but with a credit card and a car.
Exactly. He said, I wanted to catch up. And the environment was perfectly engineered for disaster. By the time he was 18, his parents were effectively out of the picture.
Often out of town.
Right. So picture this. You were 18 years old, you have a house in the hills, you have a luxury car, you have a bank account full of cash, and you have absolutely zero supervision.
That is not a recipe for success. That is a recipe for a police report. I mean, an 18-year-old brain with Hollywood money. I would have lasted about 4 days before I accidentally bought a zoo or something.
Well, he managed to stretch it out for about 10 years. He calls the 1990s his wilderness years. He describes it as simply staying at the party too long.
He wanted to be great at being a 20-something, and he was. He was really, really good at the nightlife.
But there was a dark side to the menu.
Yeah.
He has this very specific analogy for his substance use during that time. He referred to alcohol and cocaine as French fries and ketchup.
French fries and ketchup? That sounds innocuous, like a comfort meal. But I'm guessing he doesn't mean it in a Happy Meal kind of way.
No. It means they were a package deal. He didn't want one without the other. If he was having a drink at the fries, he immediately needed the cocaine. The ketchup.
It was a reflex.
And this cycle went on for a decade. It wasn't just weekends. It became the lifestyle.
And the thing about Hollywood is, it's not a patient industry. We like to think talent always wins out, but while he's out there eating his fries and ketchup until 4 in the morning, what is the industry doing? Just holding his spot.
That is the tragedy of it. No, the industry is a moving walkway. He talks about losing his place in line. When you step off the walkway to party for 10 years, they don't save your seat.
He was auditioning against guys who were hungry, focused, and sober. Think about who was coming up in the 90s. You had the Pitts, the Clooneys.
The guys who were grinding. Bateman was walking into audition rooms riddled with anxiety, paranoid from the night before, and
just sweating out the toxins.
Exactly, sweating out the toxins.
He said he felt like he was banging his head against a wall, like he was trying to break back in, but he had lost the key.
He was totally stuck. And it got darker than just bad auditions. He reached a point where he mentally checked out. He actually formulated a plan to quit acting entirely.
And this wasn't just a daydream.
No, he had the logistics worked out.
This is the duffel bag story. I love this detail because it sounds like a spy movie.
Yes. He planned to take a duffel bag filled with cash, drive to LAX, and go specifically to the Bradley International Terminal. He was going to look at the departure board, pick a random city that sounded interesting, maybe Prague, maybe somewhere in South America, and just get on the plane.
Just vanish. No agent, no headshots, no call my people.
Vanish. Unplug entirely. He said he wanted to learn the language and buy a coffee shop with his bag of cash. He was ready to trade Hollywood for being a barista in a city where nobody knew his name.
Can you imagine that timeline? You walk into a coffee shop in Budapest in 1998, and Jason Bateman serves you a cappuccino. We almost lived in a world where Ozark never happened because he was pulling espresso shots in Europe.
He was that close. He was standing on the precipice. But he didn't get on that plane. However, the irony is that a few years later, someone else did get on a plane without him.
And that flight is actually what saved his life.
That's the ultimatum. And honestly, it's the most cinematic part of the whole story because it involves a very famous father-in-law and a very rainy morning.
Coming up, we're going to break down the exact moment his wife, Amanda Anka, decided she'd had enough.
Plus, find out why a comment Bateman made to pop star Charlie XCX has the internet divided and how it links directly back to his own sobriety story.
If you are loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you are subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
Stay with us.
All right, we are back. So we've got Jason Bateman in the late 90s. He's partying way too hard, his career's on the rocks, and he's dreaming of running away. But then the plot twist happens. He meets Amanda Anka.
And this is crucial context. Amanda Anka isn't just Jason Bateman's wife. She is the daughter of music legend Paul Anka.
Put your head on my shoulder, Paul Anka, the icon.
The very same.
Yeah.
So she grew up around serious fame. She knows what it looks like when egos go unchecked. She isn't impressed by the flashing lights because she's been seeing them since she was in diapers.
And when she and Bateman got married in 2001, the power dynamic was not what you'd expect. She was actually the breadwinner.
Really? I mean, I know he wasn't working much, but she was carrying the financial load.
Yes. She was a working actress. She was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Cherry Falls. She was paying the bills while Bateman was still living like a frat boy.
That creates a very specific kind of pressure in a marriage.
Sure.
It flips the traditional script, especially for that era.
Oh, absolutely. The wife is working, paying the mortgage, being the responsible adult, and the husband is out all night testing the fries and ketchup theory. That is a ticking time bomb.
And Bateman knew it was unbalanced. There's this great detail about when he proposed. He was so intimidated by her family, specifically Paul Anka, that when he pulled Paul into a side room to ask for permission to marry Amanda, he nearly blacked out from nerves.
I mean, it's Paul Anka. He probably wrote a song about you being a disappointment before you even finished the sentence.
But the marriage hit turbulence fast. Amanda wasn't unreasonable. She didn't demand he stop drinking the day after the wedding. But she called his partying annoyingly unpredictable. That was her phrase.
That cuts deeper than just saying bad. Unpredictable means you can't build a life. You can't plan a dinner, let alone a family. It's chaos.
Precisely. She used a metaphor that Bateman still quotes today. She asked him when the spigot was going to turn off. She was tired of the drip, drip, drip of his behavior eroding their foundation. She basically said, "I'm drowning in your drip."
And Bateman, being the smooth talker he is, I mean, he's a con man in half his roles. He tried to negotiate, didn't he?
He did. He tried to set his own schedule. He told her his ETA for sobriety was about 6 months away.
He gave her an ETA, like he's an Uber driver. Yeah, I'll be sober in 6 months. Traffic is heavy. Just hang tight.
Right. He wanted to land the plane on his own terms. But Amanda didn't wait for his schedule. The negotiation failed. It brings us back to that Christmas, 2001. They have a trip planned to Mexico. It's supposed to be a romantic getaway. And she looks at him. He's hungover. He's a mess. And she says, "I'm going. You're not."
That takes guts. To leave your husband on Christmas morning because he can't get his act together, that is a power move.
It was the wake-up call. So she leaves. He's alone in the rain.
Yeah.
And he didn't wallow. That same morning, he went to his first AA meeting. He asked himself a question that I think is so powerful for anyone feeling stuck. He asked, do you want to continue being great at being in your 20s, or do you want to graduate into adulthood?
Graduate into adulthood. I like that phrasing. It frames sobriety not as losing losing the fun, but as gaining a new status.
Exactly. He calls this moment landing the plane. He realized he'd been circling the airport for a decade, running out of fuel. He had to land the plane if he ever wanted to check the boxes that mattered to him, being a real father and having a respected career.
And he did land it. I mean, the turnaround wasn't just personal, it was professional. It was almost immediate. Right?
It was startlingly fast. Once he got sober, the fog lifted. He landed Arrested Development shortly after. And if you think about it, Michael Bluth, the character, is the ultimate straight man. He's the only adult in a room full of crazy people. Bateman could play that because he had just decided to be that.
That is such a good point. He spent the 90s being Gob Bluth, the chaotic mess, so he could spend the 2000s playing Michael Bluth.
He describes that show as the thing that put paddles on the chest of his dying career. It reestablished him. And from there, he reinvented himself. He moved into directing. He did The Outsider, Ozark. He's starring in Black Rabbit now. He completely changed his trajectory.
So let's talk about where he is now. Is he a total teetotaler? Has he touched a drop since 2001?
Well, this is where it gets nuanced. He describes himself as California sober.
Okay, we hear this term a lot lately. For the listeners who aren't reading the tabloids every day, what is the official definition here?
It varies from person to person, which is why it's controversial in the recovery community. But for Bateman, it means he completely abstains from alcohol and cocaine, what he calls the Scarface stuff. But he still uses marijuana. He says it works for him, it quiets the brain without the destruction.
And clearly, it's working professionally. He's become this mentor figure in Hollywood. Josh Brolin even cites him as an example of sober parenting.
He's the wise elder now, the success story. But recently, he tried to share some of that landing the plane wisdom with pop star who didn't ask for it. And let's just say it didn't land quite as well as the plane did.
No, it did not. It created a massive generational clash.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we need to talk about how a simple conversation on a podcast turned into a PR headache and why Bateman is calling his controversial comments a natural follow-up.
We are back. So we've established that Jason Bateman sees his life as a salvation story. His narrative is, I was lost, I met a woman, she gave me an ultimatum, I changed my nature, and now I'm happy.
Right. The pivot is the hero of his story. So fast forward to February 2026. Charlie XCX is a guest on his podcast, Smartless.
And for context, Smartless is usually just guys hanging out, ribbing each other. It's not hard talk. But Charlie XCX is there. She's a massive pop icon, 33 years old. The topic of kids comes up. Charlie says, very clearly, I actually don't really want to have kids. She's expressing a choice that is becoming more and more common.
Which is a perfectly valid life choice.
It is. But Bateman pushes back. He says, that could change. And then he doubles down and says, you might find somebody. He brings up his own experience, citing that Amanda didn't want kids until she met him. He basically implies that meeting the right guy overrides your biological or personal decision.
Oof. You might find somebody. That patronizing is a polite word for it. It implies she just hasn't met a man magical enough to change her entire life plan.
And then the awkwardness peaks. Charlie reveals she is married. To George Daniel from the 1975, they've been married since 2025.
Oh, no.
Bateman didn't know. He literally said, I've got to read a newspaper one of these days.
That is physically painful. So you're telling a woman she'll change her mind when she meets the right guy, and she's already married to the right guy and hasn't changed her mind.
Exactly. The internet backlash was swift. People called it gross. They said it's archaic to tell a woman she doesn't know her own mind about motherhood. It feeds into this idea that a woman is just waiting to be completed by motherhood.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Knowing what we just discussed about Bateman's past, I kind of see why he did it. I don't think he was trying to be a misogynist.
That's the key. Bateman projects his own story onto everyone. He believes Amanda changing her mind about him, about their life, saved him. He believes that pivoting from your nature is how you grow up. So he thinks it's a universal truth. He thinks, I was lost, I met someone, I changed, I became happy. Therefore, you just need to meet someone and change.
It's like he can't imagine a happy ending that doesn't look like his. He thinks the party has to end for everyone eventually, and landing the plane means having the spouse and the kids.
Precisely. And his response to the backlash was interesting. He didn't issue a Notes app apology. He told The Hollywood Reporter that it was a natural follow-up based on their conversation about her growing up as an only child. He basically said it's educational to hear people's negative reactions.
Educational. That's a very diplomatic way of saying, I'm getting roasted, but I'm listening.
But it highlights a disconnect.
Yeah.
Bateman sees his life as a success story of changing one's nature.
Yeah.
He values the pivot. But that clashes with a modern, perhaps Gen Z sensibility, where people say, no, I know who I am, I don't need to pivot, I don't need to be fixed by a spouse.
It's a fascinating collision of worldviews.
Yeah.
The Gen X man who had to change everything to survive versus the millennial woman who is comfortable with who she is.
And that's the complexity of Hollywood conversations. It's never just about the movies or the albums, it's about the people making them and the baggage they bring to the microphone. Bateman brought his 1990s trauma and recovery to a 2026 conversation about bodily autonomy. Sparks were bound to fly.
It's a reminder that even the wise elders have blind spots. If you love unpacking these complex Hollywood dynamics as much as we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got deep dives on the Black Rabbit production secrets coming up soon, and you do not want to miss that.
Seriously, the production stories on that one are wild. Let's just say Bateman's directing style is intense.
So, to wrap this up, Jason Bateman's journey isn't just about putting down the bottle. It's about a guy who realized he was stuck in neutral while the world passed him by.
And he had the humility to accept an ultimatum. That's the hard part. A lot of people get the ultimatum and they choose the fries and ketchup. He chose the plane, he chose to land, and we got Michael Bluth and Marty Bird because of it.
But here's the thought you should really mull over. Bateman credits his wife's ultimatum for everything, his career, his kids, his life. It worked for him. But his recent clash with Charlie XCX raises a bigger question.
Is the advice that saved your life always the right advice for someone else?
That's the big takeaway. Just because you needed saving doesn't mean everyone else is lost. Or maybe the man who stayed at the party too long in the 90s just stayed at the podcast microphone a little too long this time.
Fair point. Sometimes the hardest part of landing the plane is knowing when to turn off the engines. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.